There is a special kind of for next loop within your VBA that will allow you to loop through each element within a collection. Now within the VBA there are a lot of collections. The workbooks are a collection, the worksheets are a collection. A range is effectively a collection of cells. And we can use the for next loop, as you can see here in the rough example in the for each collection file, for each element or part in the collection, depending on what the collection is. Is it a range? Is it a worksheet? Is it a workbook? Then what code gets carried out, and then next takes you around to the next element. So if we were looking at workbooks, we could loop through all the open workbooks currently within Excel. If we were looking at the worksheets collection, we could loop through all the worksheets in that particular workbook, or we could loop through each cell within a range. So let's look at a working example that will allow us to loop through each worksheet in the current workbook. So firstly, let's go back to the Excel. We can see we have 3 worksheets, doesn't matter what they're called, and let's place A and B in A1 and A2 in all 3 of the current worksheets. And then back to the code. So let's create ourselves a sub procedure. So sub remove first row, because we're going to ask this to remove the first row from every worksheet. There's our end sub, title casing on the keywords. Now our first job is to declare a variable. That variable is the element name, and we can use anything we like for the element name as long as it falls into the variable naming convention. So let's call our worksheet, which is in the worksheets collection, let's just call it WK sheet. So dim worksheet as worksheet. And then we need our loop. So for each WK sheet, because that's what we've called our worksheet, in active workbook, so we know we're only working with the current workbook, dot worksheets, so that's the collection I'm after. As before, we finish the loop off with our next and then come back in and add the code in. That way we don't forget the next statement. So for each WK sheet, which is my variable name referring to each worksheet in the worksheets collection of the active workbook, what would I like to do? Well, I'd like to take the WK sheet dot rows, and it's row 1 that I'm after, and I'd like to run the method delete. Let's see if that works. So we know that on the first row we have A in A1. So in the immediate window, let's place our sub procedure and return to run. Has anything happened? Only one way to find out. Let's go check the Excel file. Now see it says B in A1 in all 3 sheets because the first row has been deleted. So it's a straightforward loop through every sheet in the current workbook's worksheets collection and delete the first row. Obviously quite a dangerous little sub procedure, but it does what we've asked it to do. Let's do another little example of our looping through collections. We go back to our Excel file, and on sheet 1 in cell A3, place some random numbers here all the way across. So those numbers have been placed in this range A3 to D6. What we can now do with our little looping through collections option is to loop through every cell in that range. So we set that range as our collection, we loop through every cell, and we can carry out anything we'd like to carry out. Let's simply multiply everything by 10. So we go back to the VBA editor. We need a new sub procedure. Sub, let's call it revalue. I need to declare my element name. So I'm going to call that cell as range. And then for each cell in the range A3 to D6, next, and then come back to do my actions. I want to change the value of the cell effectively. So our object name is cell.value is going to be equal to cell.value multiplied by 10. Now let's see if that works. We go back to our Excel and we can see everything's gone up by 10. Obviously, the formula could fall over quite easily if, for example, we were to replace one of the text values with my name. And let's rerun. And you can see we now have a mismatch. And we have the ability to debug or end. If I debug, I'm left here is the problem. Cell value equals Guy. I can't do cell value Guy multiplied by 10. So let's reset. And we'll need to use our little if statement to check that actually that cell value is a numeric value. If is numeric cell value, then we can do our multiplication. And don't forget to close off the if, end if. Now we can rerun revalue, no errors. And we can see every cell has now gone up by another 10, but Guy hasn't been touched. So as well as the ability, as you've seen here, to do that for object within a range, looping, so you're looping through each element within that particular range, we can also introduce other little bits of VBA that we've seen, like the if statement. Just make sure that the routine is not going to crash and burn. So that's using a special case on the for next loop by using the for each element in your range, and we loop through all the parts of a range.